Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for being with me here today. So today I am going to scrapbook 2 3x4 photos of my daughter from a soccer tournament earlier this fall. And I grabbed this sketch here off the Hip Kit Club website, and it was designed by Allison Davis. I just love and adore her sketches, and I think it's going to work perfectly for my layout. Now, what I was drawn to was that on the sketch there are a bunch of long paper strips, and so I thought that is perfect for going through my stash and using up some scraps. And I actually had this old Close to My Heart collection still in my stash, of course, with nothing but scraps in it. And so this is from the Hope and Kindness collection from Close to My Heart. And I think it's going to work out perfectly with the colors in my photo, and really just kind of give that fun, girly fall vibe for the soccer layout. So I'm just kind of playing around with which papers to put in what order. I don't even worry too much about cutting things or, what width each paper is. I just really want to use up some of these scraps that I've been holding on to for years and years. And I'm really pleased with this, especially because of that rust-colored desert rose there. I think it works so well with the color of my daughter's uniform and my team sweatshirt that I'm wearing in the photo. So yeah, I've got just the right amount of papers here and a variety of patterns from that collection that I can pull this layout together. Now, the nice thing is that even though they are 12 by 12 papers, you can still turn them diagonally and make this work because you actually build it on a smaller size square. So I did want to build my strips on, I had a piece of specialty cardstock that came with this collection, but of course I didn't have a full sheet of it. And so I just kind of took an old scrapbooking paper that I knew I would never use, cut it down into the square size that I needed, and then I glued that specialty cardstock to the top and bottom. And so hopefully you'll never be able to tell that it's missing the middle because those paper strips are going to cover it up. So again, just really pleased to get through some of those scraps that I've been hanging on to. I put down the first strip, kind of figured out the angle that I wanted, and then from there it was really easy to pop these in. I decided to put adhesive directly down to my square and then lay the strip of paper over top that way, and that went really fast. So now that I've got all of these glued down, I'll flip the whole thing over and cut the excess off of the side. So my square is all ready to go. I did decide to mat it on a piece of Harbour colored cardstock just to help it pop a little bit. And off camera, I also cut out the word weekend and die cut a few extra letters so that I could glue them together and stack them up for dimension. While I was doing my die cutting, I went through all of my floral die cuts and I just found a bunch of leaves and flowers and centers of flowers. And I cut them out in coordinating cardstock colors that went along with this paper collection. And I had a lot of fun just kind of building and putting like different, layers together. These die cuts came from all sorts of different companies and places, but they worked really well to kind of, just work in harmony together. And it's fun because some of them actually have some like stitching holes in them, so you can add some embroidery thread to the flowers, which of course I did, so I will have those stitched up later off camera. But I'm just building up my flowers here to use as my embellishment pieces. And according to the sketch, I'll have one cluster over to the left side of the photos and then another cluster over to the right side of the photos. So I knew I wanted to say something about weekend in my title, but I wasn't entirely sure what at this point. As I mentioned, these photos were from a soccer tournament earlier this fall. And even though it was the beginning of September, it was actually really cold out that weekend, especially with that wind coming across that open soccer field. And we were freezing. I had to dig out my winter hat. And we had quite a bit of downtime in between the games of the tournament. So my daughter and we hiked it back to the car in the parking lot, and we were hiding out in the car just to try to stay warm, hanging out, listening to music. She ate her sandwich for lunch. We just kind of had fun hanging out. So I knew I wanted the title to be something about, the weekend memories or soccer weekend or, something like that. So later I'll go through my stamps and find some stamps to kind of fill that out. Now you may have noticed I was showing you there, I also did add a little bit of stitching both above and below where my paper strips were. On the sketch, it does show even more stitching going through those paper strips. And I thought, oh, that would be so pretty and it would look amazing. But at the time I was making this layout, I just really did not have it in me to do that much hand stitching. I do love putting stitching on my layouts, but it can be time consuming. And at the time I was like, I can't, I don't have it in me. So I did the one on the top and the one on the bottom. And I was like, there, that makes me happy, but it's not too crazy and over the top. So I'm back to figuring out this title here, and I did find in one of my stamps that I had in my collection some little sayings that were in like block, like it'll stamp as like a solid block with the letters kind of showing through. So I think what I end up doing is it says, remember the weekend moments or memories, something along those lines. And I thought that was pretty perfect just to kind of capture, what was going on in these particular pictures and how our weekends really are, taken up by all of these soccer and volleyball events that go on. They feel really exhausting now when you're living them, but I know that there will come a time where I will look back and miss these weekend memories. So I'm adding my journal strips up here to the top of the page. So I just cut a couple of pieces of white cardstock and I will glue those down. And then I still had a few smaller die cut flowers that I wanted to sprinkle around, especially in that yellow color. I wanted to bring that out just a little bit more. So I did actually add those with some foam dots. And then I went digging through my enamel dots and I found some that I could use as centers to my flowers. So I did go through and kind of sprinkle those around as well on a few of the flowers. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to do. Like you said, it felt very satisfying to use up some paper scraps that I have had in my stash for years. It's like, okay, there's a reason you hang on to these. That does end up paying off in the end. So the colors were perfect. It was fun to make my own embellishments to go along with those papers. And like I said, I just love any sketch by that very talented Allison Davis. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you guys have had a chance to get crafty lately. I know it has been a struggle for me this fall as we've been so busy, as you can see, with all of the sporting events. So have a good one, and I will see you guys next time. Happy crafting!